Hey, I'm Steven.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're independent hairdressers. We started this podcast because there's a movement in our industry.
Hairdressers are embracing independence more than ever. These are the stories of those hairdressers.
We hope you find them inspirational and educational and show you that independence does not mean isolation. You're a part of this revolution, and we're here to support that.
Say I'm a hairdresser that travels mostly to people's houses. I'm more freelance. I don't have any overhead. What are the concerns there?
That's a good point. And then that did make me think about how you're saying a hairdresser or any business is going to get taxed based on where they're operating. What if people are moving around to lots of different states, like doing clients in different states, or they're educators doing their work? And how do they then determine what rate they get taxed by?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That definitely adds a piece of complexity to it, because what would happen is you could actually look at this from like professional athlete. They play sporting events, let's NBA, I think they play 80-something games, and only half of their games are in their home state. So let's say they're based out of California, somebody on the Lakers. So maybe 40 of their games are in LA, but then the other 40 are in venues across the country. And what actually happens is they'll earn money. They're paid on a per-game basis. They take their contract spread over those games, and they actually have to pay tax in every single state that they have performed services, so played basketball. So from a CPA, if I'm preparing a basketball player's tax return, not only are we filing a federal return and their primary state return, but you have to file tax returns in every state that you perform services. So in many cases with these NBA players, you could be filing 20 or 30 different state income tax returns. And there's a whole realm of complexities that goes along with that. But let's say a hairdresser does. They do some trainings, they do some seminars that they teach at, and so maybe they are in 3 or 4 different states through the year. So what we'd want to do is actually be able to source that income. So it'd be important that they know that for this conference, I earned $20,000, and that was in California. I did this in Arizona, and I did this in Nevada, and this in Utah. And so we actually separate that out because it can actually be advantageous because every state has its own different income tax. Utah, for example, is a flat 5%. California, it's progressive, but their highest one, I think, is 11.5%. And so there are ways that, we can look at it and say, well, if you're a Utah resident, then Utah's just worried that you're paying the minimum Utah 5%. And so, yes, we still have to file a California return, but we can get a credit for that in Utah so that we're not paying double taxes in these different states.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, having somebody like that does a lot of travel. And then also from a deduction standpoint, they're going to be looking at a lot different types of deductions than somebody would that's just renting out a booth in that just goes and rents the same booth every single day versus somebody that has a lot of travel, because, their expenses are going to look a whole lot different than somebody that's just going to the booth on a daily basis.
Okay. Yeah, that's one more reason to have someone on your side.
On the topic of retail, what are the kinds of things you have to do? That's based on every state and
like sales tax, right?
Sales tax is a big one, and it's one that people usually hate.
It's my least favorite.
Yes, and there are a couple states that don't charge sales tax, but most states do charge sales tax. And the way sales tax works is basically if you provide a product for this person and they are located in the state where the exchange takes place. So for a hairdresser, it's going to be right there in the salon. They buy some shampoo. The exchange takes place right there. You're going to be required to collect sales tax. And in this case, don't look at it as an expense to you. Sometimes people look at it and say, man, I paid so much in sales tax. Mm-hmm. You're actually not the one paying the sales tax. It's the customer that pays it. But the only way for the state to receive that money is the person that's taking that money from the customer. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of just the intermediary between the customer and the state.
Right.
So this is, once again, a good reason to talk to a qualified accountant or CPA, because there's different filing requirements. Some states will make you file every single month regardless of how much you collect. And let's say you had $1,000 of product sales and there's a 6% sales tax rate, and so $60 has to go to the state. What would happen is, in a lot of states, that's due maybe quarterly or semi-annually or annually. But some states, regardless of the amount, will be monthly. And these are things that if you don't file it, and sometimes, maybe you didn't have any sales, and you think, I don't have to file anything, right? Once you started or have a filing requirement for sales tax, whether or not you actually had sales, you still have to file that sales tax return. And so, first it's understanding, okay, what's my filing requirement? Do I do a monthly, semi-quarterly, semi-annually, annually? And then making sure that those are filed. And then even if I don't have sales in a certain period, a return is actually still going to be filed, because this is one of those areas where the state looks at you as you're the steward of that money in between the customer and the state. And so if they're not getting it paid, they're coming down with a heavy fist. It's not your money that you're not paying. It's somebody else's money that paid you,
right,
that you're no longer paid back to the state. And so this is one of those areas where it's very hard. If you get penalties, late fines for not paying, there's almost no forgiveness or zero tolerance, because once again, it's not your money. This is somebody else, and you've just been trusted with that to pay that to the state.
Right.
That's one of the areas where you want to make sure that you're on top of it. And like I said, if from day one you understand, okay, this is due each quarter, and the first quarter needs to be paid by April 30th. And so you just know that these 4 quarters a year, it needs to be paid. Great. But if all of a sudden you go a full year and then go and talk to your accountant and say, okay, so I had about $50,000 in product sales, and I got some sales tax. I don't really remember. I didn't put it in a different account. I didn't really track it. That could open a whole can of worms.
And what is the exemption so you don't have to pay sales tax when you buy the product?
Yep, exactly. So your suppliers, so you go, let's say, I don't know,
beauty supply.
Because you're a reseller of their product, you can get an exemption license. And normally what will happen if you don't have an account, you go to set one up, you'll actually get a reseller's license with them. And it's actually to protect them, so the state can't come back to them and say, you sold Steven some product and you didn't collect sales tax on him. Well, Steven's not actually the end customer of that product. And so the state says, if you're just going to resell it, you can go buy product at cost without sales tax, because you're not the end purchaser of that product. Now that it's in your salon and you sell it to the actual customer, you're the one that's going to collect that sales tax. So normally, as a reseller, you can go buy your product from your supplier without paying sales tax. So it comes to you, no sales tax has been paid yet, and then when you sell it to your end client, they're the one that pays the sales tax. But it does put that burden on you to actually remit that payment back to the state.
Right. Is that the same as a sales and use tax license? Okay. Because I've heard it called a resale certificate or a sales, but they're just different names.
So sales and use tax. Yeah. So use tax is, sales tax is when you're actually buying. Use tax is technically, if you're buying something online, like I go to Amazon and I buy a bunch of stuff. Some states you do get charged sales tax. In Utah right now, because Amazon doesn't have a warehouse here or a major foothold here, we don't have to pay sales tax. However, on your tax return, that's considered a use tax. And so you say, I purchased $10,000 of goods from Amazon. I need to report that on my tax return and actually pay taxes then.
And so that would be something just normal consumers need to do.
Yes. And to tell you the truth, most people don't do that.
I was just going to say that.
I can almost every state asks you that question on the tax return. How much goods and services you purchase from an outside of the state retailer, because they say we want to make sure all the sales tax is being collected. In reality, most people don't do that. Obviously, as a CPA, I can't advocate that you don't.
Of course, yeah.
Don't report that.
You should do it.
You report that and then pay the use tax. But that's why you hear sales and use tax. That's what the use tax is referring to. But it's essentially the same tax they're looking for.
Interesting. Yeah, just to recoup it when it's across. Yeah.
Yeah, across state lines.
So I think, so far my takeaway from this conversation has been, if I didn't already have somebody I was working with, that I would immediately
yes,
Where am I? Yeah, exactly.
Thoroughly confused everybody. Hopefully not put them all to sleep, but
yeah, I kind of love this stuff. I mean, I hope that other independent hairdressers can kind of see, educate yourself about this. And it's actually, once you do, it's actually kind of empowering, because you don't feel that you're screwed or anything like that. It's just you're in control of your destiny.
This is the stuff I love. I talk to somebody and I honestly look at it as a challenge. My goal is to get as much possible tax savings as possible. Obviously legal, but a lot of times people just worry, I don't want to, with the IRS, I'm terrified of getting audited. Don't make that your worry. The IRS has laid out in that tax code, I think it's like 75,000 pages long, 0.5% of that tax code. So a few hundred pages tells you what's taxable. The other 99.5% tells you how to reduce your taxes.
Wow.
So it's literally like a roadmap of how to reduce your taxes. And so that's our job as a CPA, to see what we can do, and not simply, so many CPAs out there are, year end, give me your information, I plug it into my software and I give you your tax return, and we'll see you in 12 months.
And those are the kind of CPAs that are being replaced by TurboTax or something
like that. Yes, exactly.
Because they're doing what a software program would do.
And to tell you the truth, you go in and, I don't want to bash some of these brick and mortar, the shops that pop up during tax season, won't say any names, but if you go in there and, say, hey, I've got my own business, you're literally sitting across from a desk from somebody that's had 2 weeks of training. They go in, they have a 2-week crash course on whoever business software they use, and you're literally sitting across, and instead of you entering it into TurboTax or the equivalent, they're entering it, and going through asking these. And most, a lot of times they're like, are you an independent contractor? What does that mean? I don't know. Let me see what this box says. Like they're learning it right there with you. You need to have somebody. And I think a lot of times people think, well, CPA is going to cost me, way too much. We pride ourselves on actually being affordable. I mean, we price ourselves against like the H&R Blocks, the Liberty Tax, and price-wise, we almost every time will beat them from a price perspective. And we look at it and say, not only, you're getting your tax returns done, but you're getting it done by people that understand your industry, this field, your specific situation. So what we offer at Elevation Tax is the first, we want to talk to people. So we offer a 15 to 30-minute consultation where, if you've got questions, write them down.
Is that complimentary?
Yes, complimentary. So give us a call. We can go through those questions and then explain kind of how we work. Like I said, we do everything we can to avoid hourly fees. There are some cases where that's what the client prefers, and so we can do that. But we view ourselves as that advocate, somebody on the advisory team. And so most of our packages are a monthly, even if it's just a consulting package. We can set up a monthly consulting package, a monthly bookkeeping, look at the whole thing. Maybe we have payroll in there and tax prep as well. But then you know what your cost is on a monthly basis. And so we can go through your scenario, answer those questions, and then put together a proposal for you and say, this is what we can do. Cool. This is how we can do it. All of our services are online or in the cloud. So our bookkeeping software is online. So if you've got access to the internet, you've got access. The way we get all of your tax return information, once again, it's all online, all secure. We have an online portal you can upload all of your documents to. So we try to make things as easy and seamless as possible. Our goal is that you hopefully have to think as little about the back office and the accounting side. At the end of each month, we get your financials. You can take a look at your financials. If you have any questions, we can schedule a call, anything like that. But our goal is to get you the information you need to make smart business decisions. You can focus on growing the business, getting bigger, and we'll make sure you're doing it effectively from a tax perspective.
That's awesome. And we talked about this offline for a second. But an easy way for me was when I was adding up the time that I was spending doing my bookkeeping, trying to figure out the taxes, I thought about how many haircuts I could do in that time.
Yeah.
And it easily outweighed the cost of paying somebody to do it. Yep. And then I would be doing something I love to do, actually, was cutting hair instead of figuring out the paperwork.
Taking 5 hours doing something that could take him 5 seconds.
Yeah. So what we'll do is so best way to reach you.
Yeah, two different ways. You can go to elevationtax.com and then right there on the main page, you can read about our services there, but right on the main page, you can actually request a consultation.
Oh, perfect.
And then, or if you just want to give us a call at 888-519-1666, and we can just get you scheduled for an appointment. So either one of those would be a great way to contact us. And yeah, we're more than happy to answer. And if we spend 30 minutes and you say, yeah, it's not for me, that's great. At least you know where you're at, what you can do, and we want to be there to help and, awesome. Hopefully empower you so that you can grow the business and not worry about just the back end and IRS and taxes and all that stuff. That's what we love.
Well, and through that, like we also spoke a moment before we started, through elevationtax.com, is that where they could also find, you've been doing some little podcasts?
We set up a YouTube channel. And so once a week, we try to get on there and just answer frequently asked questions. So we work with, a lot of, not just hairdressers, we work at, many industries, sure. But we get a lot of common questions. Talking about one of the recent questions that are pretty common when we get was about the solar panel energy credit. People probably have the door-to-door salesman come by and say, hey, I want to put solar panels on your roof. It's going to save you and you can get a big tax credit for it.
Well, let me talk to my accountant first.
Yeah, and that's
or let me look
at
this YouTube video.
So yeah, we have questions. And if you've got questions you want us to answer, we'd be more than happy to. Like I said, we put them out there once a week. Yeah, so feel free to subscribe there and get those updates. And then we also have a newsletter that we send out once a month. And you can subscribe for that on the website as well.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
It's been a pleasure.
I know you were worried about making tax stuff interesting, but I thought it was fantastic.
I enjoyed myself.
And hopefully we helped a lot of people out there. But really, I'm going to encourage everybody, get online, elevationtax.com, sign up for that free consultation. Even if you think you're doing it right, it's a good idea to double check. So anyways, thank you again, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
If you mention Detergent Insurgents at Elevation Tax, you get 10% off your tax preparation.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. We hope you liked it as much as we loved making it. For more information about us, our guests, or anything else you heard today, please go to detergentinsurgents.com.
Victory, victory is within me, and I remember